Hi everyone, welcome back into the classroom here. We're going to continue our bird number 3 on our challenge, our Painting Garden Birds challenge. And I've got a lot of great comments from you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the comments and of course the likes and subscription to the channel. We really appreciate that. I'm going to continue on. I'm going to paint another one, which I had some requests for, but this is another one that's really a favorite bird of mine from our house out in Pennsylvania, the black-capped chickadee. And these are amazing little birds. I have some photos here of it. It's amazing little birds, and they're really quite small. They're about really about here. They fit into the palm of your hand here. And I had some really super friendly ones that would come right up to me at the house out there all the time. But they're just like this. You can tell the size of it. That's sunflower seeds, and that's the size of them. And they just munch down the sunflower seeds like crazy. So they're really kind of a beautiful bird. This one looks a bit skinny, but anyway, I love it because we can paint some of the black areas. I can show you some of the black, and we can do some tans and some whites. And I think I'm going to do a little more painterly. Now, I kind of sketched this out. To sketch a chickadee, if you're going to turn him kind of sideways, he gets a little skinnier sideways, and you can kind of see that. And he has kind of an oval body here. So usually what I do is I just start an oval like this. For his head, I put another, whatever way I want him to look, I put another oval this way, and then his when you divide out for his wing, his tail is going to come right out about that line here. So when I put this one on, I put on an oval here this way, and then I put an oval on just at this angle, and then I divided back down this way with an oval this way. That shows I want to foreshorten his face, which means I want to turn him this way a little bit, and that'll be where the point of the beak joins right in there to his head right there, and that'll be the line of his beak. And so when I take the oval like this, then I draw in short of it, and this becomes the top of his mantle, or what we call the shoulder, his shoulder here. And then you just divide up here with the tail and so on and so forth. Usually on the chickadee here, his tail is about as long as his body. So you can just make that tail the length of his body, and you've got it there. If that's, that's pretty much the chickadee. Out to here, I'm thinking about maybe coming out, the chickadee is really, I have him here a little bigger than what he is in life size, and I normally don't do that, but I want to start painting a little more painterly. Now, we were doing some detail work here with the number 4 round, and I want to show you painting mostly with that number 4 flat, or a filbert, a small filbert, or that number 2 works really well as well. Heading over to the what I call the bird portrait look, a little bit further away from realism. We can do the realism. You can do that. You just spend some time with that small brush, and you can do that. But grabbing that alla prima, that movement, that beauty that comes from an instantaneous brush stroke is really pretty, and I love that in portraits, and I love it in bird portraits, animals that I paint. That's the one thing that I love about being a painting now. We have and I love the digital arts. I love a lot of arts, but you have such beautiful digital cameras and stuff today that so much realism. You might as well have a photo. It's better, at least for me, and this is just for me, my opinion. Okay, I like it to where if I'm going to buy a painting, I like it to be a painting, and so. Understanding that calligraphy, what we call the brush calligraphy, the movement and the calligraphy and stuff is very important, and that's something we want to work towards, being able to paint more powerful, get some beautiful birds, but a little bit more powerful with a little bit more calligraphy. So I'm going to use a couple of brushes here. I have my 2 and a 4. That I really like. I will use the 4 round, for maybe detailing around his eye and stuff like that. You could also use a small filbert, like a number 4 filbert. We'll probably do a lot of his painting here with the 4. And let's just go in and set him first. We'll set his colors and everything first. Now, he's got a lot of he's got a lot of the tans and stuff, colors here. And when you look at photos, you go out there and you look at photos, look at him against different backgrounds and see what you like. And I like this kind of like soft violet that's behind this one. It's a nice complement to that yellow. So, there's nothing like having nature's palettes out there. So let's go with a soft violet to begin with. So here's my palette out here. Same colors I used last time, except I changed out sapphire. I had a conversation with, or an email conversation back and forth with Tame about sapphire, and there's only one tube in all of Japan right now. So we're going to go back to phthalo blue here, and then we'll make a soft violet from either the phthalo blue and quinacridone violet or the phthalo blue and red violet. So same palette. This is Hansa yellow, dialite yellow, yellow oxide, naphtha red light, pine green, phthalo blue, quinacridone violet, red violet, and my titanium white. 3/4 inch brush. I'm going to have also out a little cap of my extender medium. This slows down the drying time. This is what it looks like, extender medium. It works with the Heritage paint. It slows down the drying time of the paint to give me some time to work on some calligraphy strokes if I want to keep a wet edge. I don't always do it, but sometimes I'll do that. So let's go in and make ourselves. It takes just a little bit of these violets and stuff here. Let's make a soft violet color here. And if it gets too bright, so I'm going to make it a little bit more towards about here. And as we add white is really a toner. And a lot of people always say add a little light white to brighten it up. No, it doesn't. It tones. White is in nature, in the light, the spectrum of light. White is all colors together. So it is a toner. So what happens is as I add more white, the intensity of this color goes down. So it's not quite as bright. And I want to have it pretty light here, so the intensity is going to go down. But if it doesn't go down enough for you, then you reach over and you would grab your yellow. You would grab the yellow because this is going to be one of the main colors that is going to be into the bird. And so if you add this down here, you'll see, and I got a little blue coming out of my brush there too, but you'll get this a little bit more of a gray color, which is quite pretty here as this starts to gray down. So you can toss over here and get it warmer, but you can see it gets grayer. See that? It gets grayer right there. So that's also a pretty color. Any one of these in here, or just model them all together. What I do if the bird is going this way, I like to follow the Dutch philosophy of painting, which is creating St. Andrew's cross. So if the bird goes this way, my background is going to go this way, creating a collision point right at my center of interest between two basically two elements within the painting. And that's what they did, and I loved it. Ever since I first learned that, I start doing that a lot. Those of you that have painted through the Dutch painting class with me and stuff, and floral class and stuff with me, that's what I like to do. Now sometimes if I get too much power with it, now this is a smaller bird and we want to have some nice calligraphy with him, so we probably will brush off just a little bit. We'll leave some of that nice powerful movement there, but take a bit of it off into a slightly different direction, just to mark it up there a bit, to soften the movement. So I'll just go through that right there. I like that. Boy, that was really pretty. A little bit of blue went right through there. So I think sometimes, when you're painting, you have a plan and then something happens and boy, isn't that kind of neat, that little there, a little blue. Let's leave that. And I don't want to bring it out too much because it's, there's one thing where it can get interest, and then there's another thing where it can take away from the bird. So, and in painting, it's a real fine line. So let's just drop that into the water. We'll tap back through here to see just a bit of my original sketch so I don't have to do it again. Okay, and we're off. All right, so we'll come in here with our 4, and we're looking for some of the undertones, that you would have in this type of bird. And so this one has a back that's kind of like, you've got this, he's got a lot of black on him, and you notice I don't have black on my palette because we're going to make our black. But it's more of a, you can see in the blacks as they get lighter here, it's more of a violet. See, it's more of a violet, so that's a real good color into there. So really kind of a grayed violet kind of color. So some phthalo blue, some of our quinacridone violet here. If I want to tone that, grab any of your yellows here, and see, that'll give you a real nice toned little violet color here. We can use kind of in the dark areas here up by his coverts and his mantle feathers right up through here. And I'm just going to add a little bit of extender to this just to, and we'll play off the yellow as well. See, we'll do this yellow, right, kind of a gray color. See, look at this tone that's right there. That is that tone that's right underneath there. And you can vary it, you know, take it over to a little bit more violet, sometimes a little bit more quinacridone in it with some yellow. You know, get some nice variation. That's what makes your birds the prettiest, is when you know how they shimmer and shine in the light. They get all kinds of, you know, colors into them and stuff. And it's kind of nice to do that into your birds. Let's, before we even go into the black or into a real dark color, let's go up and set some of this. And I want to use shape following strokes down here by his eye. But I'll, excuse me, I'm going to pull down. That right here is very, very important. So his beak is coming in right here. And to foreshorten his face, you don't want to just pull a stroke all the way down there. That won't turn him. You have to almost imagine some of this shorter little feathers here that is forming the, because here's the center line of his face. It's moved in just a bit. So this is actually the opposite side right here. So you got to pull in basically down like that, and then start to round it back. That will foreshorten his face. If you don't have a few streaks coming out at that angle, it won't foreshorten. It'll just look strange. So that is a very important thing. So here we'll follow up and around, and I went right through one of his white band areas there. That's okay, because, you know, this makes a nice soft underlying tone for some white and stuff on him as well. It's really nice to get some of these tones, undertones. So I usually, a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times I like to put some undertones into the bird to begin with, to start some of these nice feathers or looks of, you know, the colors, to get some of the different coloring and stuff into him here. And let's just divide down his tail. And I usually keep the tail pretty soft until I decide what I'm going to do with the bird. But see, now you got these blues and kind of reddish and kind of grays. That makes some beautiful undertones for him here. Let's head this with a little more yellow, maybe a touch of red into this, and some of this blue, or a bit more brownish kind of color, a bit more yellow, maybe a little darky light right in there. It's kind of pretty. Nice undertone here up into this area for some of the yellows. And so sometimes I undertone really light colors, sometimes I undertone darker colors. I kind of read through the bird what I'm going to be painting, and I kind of settle on the technique I want to use, and then a painting, a progression of colors that I want to use. So I don't always do this on every bird. That's why I want to paint so many with you guys, to show you some of the different techniques. Now let's put some of that up here onto his mantle here as well, his shoulder. Let's just put a bit of that in. See, you get all that nice, beautiful toning in there, and that's what makes the bird so nice. We'll push this right up to his shoulder here, just a bit of that. Let's add, even though his beak will be kind of black, let's just add a bit of undertoning right into there, like that with that. Now that's a pretty good color that I might just push out in through here a bit. Just add a bit of extender so it works a bit more. I like to take some of the colors and push them out into backgrounds in other areas. And I don't always do this right away. I usually do it when I remember. You know, it's sometimes I get so wrapped up in painting. You know, you get so wrapped up in like painting the bird, you forget. Oops, carry color out to some of these other areas. So carrying color out, taking that color out. Is a real good thing. And we know from color theory that if you establish a dominant color, then you know, whatever becomes a large dominant color then becomes an accent color throughout other elements of your design. That's how you carry color through, and that's how you create better harmony into your painting. And so, yeah, so that'll be kind of nice. This will eventually be gorgeous flowers, I hope, here. So we'll put some of that in there and have a bit of fun with it. And let's get just a bit of those yellows. Let's go just a touch more yellow oxide here and get a bit of that. We're going to put some beautiful tones in here, but we'll make that just a touch more yellow. Maybe a hit of it right up here, right up in there, and that'll be good. Now let's, we have kind of this violet, and with that yellow that's in my brush, I'll neutralize it right here with some of this violet. And with the heritage, if it starts to dry up, you just add a little water and it'll all reconstitute here. You can do that for a couple hours with the heritage paints. And I'm going to take a bit of white with that. So we got this violet that's been lightened or toned with a bit of the yellows and stuff here. Let's come in. There's going to be his eye. And we'll push a bit of this, and I'm just using the corner of the 4 here like this. And what I eventually want to do, this is just a nice undertone here. What I eventually want to do is be able to get it with more of a stroke, you know, a brush mark, as opposed to a, don't want to use the word stroke, it's a brush mark, as opposed to you know, small little back and forth kind of stuff. And we want to start to head into painting an area with a powerful mark, a brush mark, as opposed to a bunch of little tiny stuff that we did with the, you know, the fine brush with the small detail brush. And it's that brush calligraphy that makes it so pretty. Let's take a bit of this kind of grayed light violet here and just drop it right down his tail and push that off here. That's the kind of thing that we want to do. Let's put a little bit of that yellow in there. Just push that in. Okay, a little light color right here on the front of his breast, which he gets. And see, just a real quick little stroke. Now see, you start to get at this type of painting here that's not a bunch of little marks. It's a bunch, it's, you know, really quite bigger here. Okay. Now let's go in. I'm going to take my little number 4 here, and we'll use a dark, I take violet and a little bit of green or a little bit of red. Red and blue make a nice, real dark, blackish kind of color too. Oh, and the other thing, even though his eye is very black here, oh, that's the one color that I did not put out here. What? Why didn't you guys tell me I didn't put this color out? It's one of my favorite colors, the burnt sienna here. It's got a little air in the tube where it's going to shoot everywhere. Here we go. Just my burnt sienna. I just love my burnt sienna. I can't paint an eye without burnt sienna. Put that, look at it. See, it did shoot right all the way through there. That's called casual color movement. We'll build on that. We'll have a bit of burnt sienna into the back there. We'll tap into a bit of the light and put that eye in. The eye is always kind of in line with his beak here. We're going to leave, even though he doesn't have too much of an eye ring, I'm going to leave one. I'm going to paint one in there because it does help pop his eye off. And I like the birds, you know, sometimes I'll paint them like super real, and you won't see the eye on a chickadee very easy. I mean, you only really see the shine, see there, right? And but sometimes when they're turned just right, you get a tiny little eye ring there. You see that light little that little bit of light. But most of the time, you don't get that. You get a little shine. And their beak here is also very stubby, very short here. we'll work that in there like that. That'll be okay. And I'm going to put a little burnt sienna, a little of this other color. I just like to model colors. Model means that I put them together, but I don't mix them, so that they come out with different colors. That's what makes them really nice. So a little more burnt sienna back here, maybe just a touch there. And let's go back with some of our darks. Our reds and blues is a real nice darker gray here. Put just a bit of extender into that. And let's take a look. Now, you can see here on this one, his light goes, well, if we don't paint it, his light here goes right up below the eye, and so it just captures the small right below the eye. And so I'm gonna put a little bit right down below the eye here of the dark, and then concentrate most of it back up here along the top right here. And so that'll be about the detailing that I do. That leaves me room for, to refine. Let's just take a bit of our violet and stuff, a real soft little eye ring. So I'll put a bit of that around here, and then I'll go back to the dark and paint right up to it here. So this is about as much detailing that I'm going to do with this little number 4, because I'll be going back here to my larger brush. I want to paint him mostly painterly with the larger brush. We'll put just a bit more in there onto his beak. Let's put a catch light, nice little catch light here. Usually you put it emulates the light source. So I'm not going to use pure white. I'm going to come right here and bring the light in over his back shoulder. So I'll bring the light right there. Probably could go even a little lighter than that. So a bit more contrast. And again, if it gets too big, you back it back out with some dark, right? We always push into it with some dark and control it that way. All right, so we're going to set that down. I'm going to go, instead of to the 4, I'm going to go to my little number 2 here with some of my dark. Model some of this reds, yellows, blues, burnt siennas, all together, all making some nice darker tones. Pull down, pull down, pull down, round that around. Get a few little marks there onto the side. That's what foreshortens his face. Okay, and we'll pull down here underneath as well, right up by that beak. Pull down there, and it's going to pull down right down here like this. Now see, each one of these, see, I'm doing more of a mark, a brush mark, and I'll override when I do this. I go beyond where my white is. So what I'm going to do is paint my black up into my white and my white back down into the black. That's what's going to give you a nice feathery look here to him. And we'll drop some of that dark right around like that. Sometimes it'll come out a little more reddish, sometimes a little more blue here, sometimes maybe a touch of yellow. And that's what happens. They shimmer in the light, and you get all kinds of little colors of darks here. So you don't want it all, there's a lot of decorative painters that just paint it all with the black and put in some gray shines. And I just, and I can say this because I did it for years and I was really happy with it, but it's this, I don't look at as black as blacks anymore, and that's why you have the Impressionist palette of the 19th century doesn't contain black. They don't paint with black, and because black is really a dead color, so they don't use it very often. So let's go more of a violet, darker, deeper violet, which is going to be colder. And that is your real dark. Sometimes I'll put a little pine green with that because that really does tone it off just a bit, a little differently here. You can see that's just a bit darker. And a stroke or two here. Just boom, boom, boom. Get it done. Get out of there. Let's get one right back here. A little darker. Leave some of those other tones coming out. But see, it'll be a little, it's kind of hard to see, but it gets a dark streak to it there. That works really well. I do like that, so I might touch just a touch of that right into his eye and take out that catch light when you're not supposed to. So we'll just push that back in. Let's just act like we know what we're doing here and just add a little tiny bit back. Sometimes that happens when you're not careful. And now, I like this one here. When you start look at the grays, look at the different coloring in through here. You'll pick up some nice warm yellows and whites, some nice violet blues and whites in there. Let's just keep that as a kind of a guide for us here as we look at some of these whites here, these white areas. We'll pull back and forth here. And I may want to move up to my 4 to do some of this, but then let's go with that nice yellow and white. So a little yellow oxide and some white here. Let's warm the back side of him here. Pull as much as you can with larger strokes this time. Now, if you don't like that look, you can always, add. You can always start out like this and add a few more of the, more detailed strokes with your number 4. But start out like this, so that you get some nice, powerful strokes. Let's put some of this cooler color into that. Pull that down, right up into there, right up. Let's just go tap this right up by his face, right in there. Just use the corner of your brush. Okay. Let's build. He's got this cheek area there, so we'll build a bit more light. See, and that's what I like. As I start to build the color, and I start to get some different tones coming out. A little more white, a little more yellow. Build it bigger here. There, like that. Let's build it bigger, more paint. Boom. And that gives you that. See, now you've got all those nice undertones and some nice stroking of colors coming out. Let's take a bit of our dark and pull right down to that. So you get this area of crossing of the tones this time. Put a little extender in there. You want to keep a wet edge, so a little bit of extender, and you don't want to play around forever here. So I can do like this. I can take this up into my whites a bit, pull my finger down and grab and get a total different kind of calligraphy there too. You see that? Now that happens really easy if you have enough paint. But you've got to have enough paint. You've got to build that paint up on there to get that paint for this little guy. Let's build a little lighter touch right up there. Put a bit of our violets and stuff into our brush and just push into that. Model into that just a bit. And go back with our darks right up towards his beak. There. So I paint those edges back and forth just a bit like that to get some different looks. Now we can take a lighter hit of that gray and just pull a bit down like that to put a idea of a shine on him. Okay. And yeah, it works really, really well. I'm going to rinse that 4 here. That 2. I'm going to go back to my 4. This is, when I'm painting painterly birds, this is my favorite brush. So this is the brush I like to use a lot on the birds when I paint them. I'm going to go down into his body here because I'm going to build a lot of paint down through here. And I'm just going to start building it. Put a little bit of extender in this. This will keep it just a bit so it keeps it wet for about 30 minutes or so as I work it here. And let's get a little bit of that burnt sienna in there. Now that I have it on the palette, that works. There. That's kind of pretty. Let's burnt sienna with a touch of our blues and stuff so it's not quite so bright. Maybe mottled a little yellows in there. Tones. See, what I'm looking for is tones. Differences in tones. So I want to capture, like on this one here, see those nice cooler tones going right down into there, and it comes out into the yellows and stuff. So I want to be able to capture some of that. Or here you see it right through here. This yellow is actually a little bit more of a green and red into it, but that'll work for us right here. And I like that coming up around the point of his shoulder a bit, of that yellow working in there. That works. Bit of the yellow, burnt sienna, blue. Pull down that mantle feathers here. That's good. And then he'll have whites into some of this. So let's go make a nice gray color here. Put a bit of extender into that. Nice gray color here. Come down about about a third or so into his wing. This starts his coverts. The main covering feathers that go, after the mantle. This is his mantle, his shoulder, and then the coverts. Let's put those in. And then the coverts usually have, a few strokes of some feathers. So I'm just going to take a bit of the light color, maybe a bit of grays into it, model that through, and get as suggestive as I can with just a stroke or two there. Maybe push off. See, very suggestive. This is the more painterly look to it. So you try to do it, you kind of plan it, kind of look at it, see if you can do it with just a few strokes. So we'll pull down his mantle here and pull that down. Leave him as suggestive, leave him very suggestive here. Boom, down like that. So it's not a lot of small brush detail, it's more bigger brush and little marks. Marks here. Boom. Push that color in, and that works pretty well. Let's get a bit of the light with some of this gray. Let's put that front breast stroke in as big and strokey as you can there. Okay. Very painterly. Boom. Here. Bit different, huh? And I don't like this rounding stroke that's right there in there. I want to take some, I'm going to warm some of this up and pull back down this way. That's the calligraphy I want to turn his head down. It's rounding too much, so I want to pull down. Then I'll take some blue, maybe some burnt sienna with that here. Let's pull a few strokes down this way. That's better. See how that turns his head better? There we go, just like that. That's nice. And I'm going to pull some of that dark down, tap through here closer to his beak. His beak is really normally very dark, but we could have a little shine just like on the top of his head. We can use the corner of our brush here, push in a bit of a shine. And again, like I always say, I always paint it too big and then I just tap it down into position. Give a little bit of a color there. Just a touch of a mark and maybe a bit of the small mark of the line. Now, you see how I just tap it and you get all that detail. Now, that's really small. And for all you beginners and stuff that you have there, if you're not that, or don't paint with the fusions that much, go ahead and use this brush. Go ahead and use your 4 and put some detail in there. But that's what you want to go for. That's what you want to be able to get to as an artist, to be able to get the big, bold alla prima right away. And that gives you confidence into your brush, right? That's what we want to do. But see, I like that crossing of it there. You get it's a different look. It's a different look. So let me go back and restate, since while I played around with that, the breast area here probably is a little dry. Let me go back and restate and build this breast area again. A little more burnt sienna. When you're painting alla prima, the big strokes here like this, I like to repeat the areas several times. So see, you get a little more depth and a little different color. And I'm using a lot of paint. I'm going to grab a big old thick paint here, and I'm just going to pull down on that brush stroke, and I'm just going to run it right there into the dark and the light. I don't want to stroke it too many times because then I lose the power of the stroke. And Sargent said that to us. Those of you who are painting in the classes, you know how much I talk about Sargent all the time. And it was studying Sargent that changed the way I did everything. So, and he always said, Use as large a brush as possible and just a couple of strokes. See, it gives a nice look to that. Let's restate maybe a bit of a lighter yellow back up into this area. And see, you can swoop the strokes, or the marks, the color a bit to create some other body strokes in here as you do that, when you're doing it this way, as opposed to doing little, dinky strokes with the smaller brush, a different brush. So we can move through here like this, and see, you get that color and you get all these other different types of powerful strokes here. Let's set some yellow right through that. Boom, see? It is a different look, a more painterly look to the bird here. Boom, right up through there like that. That works. But I would like to kind of put his, like a hip kind of thing here that comes down. I like that about the little chickadees. So I'm going to put some yellow in. Paint back up. Put some burnt sienna. Notice how I don't paint too many times with that stroke. Once I add that color in there, I don't paint too many times. I'm working, changing the color, working and hitting another mark. That's the real key to the painterly look there, like that, see? So you get this other, it's a different kind of look. So if I played with that, that would all become one color, see? And that's hard. That is really hard to do because, when you're learning and you're painting something for the first time, you want to play with it and get the right shapes and stuff like that. But that's the last thing you want to do with this type of painting. So, the chickadees I've painted like this before, so I'm pretty comfortable with. But your first one, you might have to play and restate and, figure it out a bit. Let's put a bit more grade, lost edge color down on the other side here. Pull that down. Maybe I like, he's really kind of a hairy guy. I kind of like that kind of look on this one here. Pull down the breast area a little bit and pull some of this light, just light, feathery type looks down there at the edge. I kind of like that. Maybe right here where his foot's going to be, we'll bring down for his thigh, his leg right there. And I just like that, and I took it out with my finger because I just do that. That's good. Leave it. See, it's a stroke. It's a mark. Leave it. And let's take their legs are really kind of a blue-gray. We'll take some burnt sienna and some of the blue here, and let's just drop in kind of an idea here. Maybe we'll do like the last one and cover it all up at the last minute. Drop another one in here, back here. And that's kind of okay. I'll put a bit of light, a little bit of light color right there, right across, just to make it look like it embeds his leg into his body there. I kind of like those kind of strokes. I'm gonna be brave and take that lighter stroke right down through there, right like that. Sometimes it's nice to let the colors tack up a bit, then you get a nice look as well. Okay, let's go back up. Some gray, some yellow, restate some of this mantle, put a bit of white with that, so we get a bit of lighter gray. Curve it down a bit, because that's what happens here. But see, that's the feathering stroke of the little four. See how you can get that kind of, that works really well. Let's get a little bit of blue. That's almost dry down there, so I'll just add a little water. Get some of these grays going in there. Get those colors. See, that's what makes him pretty. And let's get that burnt sienna, a little blue, a little violet, nice dark, that we can come down here and put on the back side of his wings. See, the back side of his wings are going to have a little light tip, and then, these are his, really, you can see him pretty good, his primaries, his secondaries, and his tarsals, the different types of feathers. And down. Now, I'm not gonna, it's like, do you get that detailed or not? And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Just a little chisel here, because you don't see that flat of these side of the feathers, because they're at us, they're pointing at us. Let's put just a bit of that in here. But if you leave any of that light, you'll have that negative, like I like to do painting a negative feather technique that I talk about in a lot of books. It's called the negative feather painting technique. So what I do is, and this should actually be a light violet here on the Chickadee, because it's mostly a lighter black here. So light kind of violet. And I kind of pick out the value of it here. I'm going to go up probably around an 8 or so. Yeah, it's real close to an 8, 7 to an 8 here. And what I do if I want to paint those feathers a little bit more is I just round around like that with a little bit of light. Boom, to make that light tip of the feathers. And sometimes I don't get that detailed, sometimes I do. Then I'll take the darker color, a little different than I used before, but a nice darker color, and I'll stroke down, painting out the majority of that light, leaving just the tip here onto the feather, and that gives you that light little look of that edge of that feather there, see? So, and you can put some more light in and all that kind of stuff. You can do that art thing all over. It's all up to you. I'm not going to get that detailed on him. Not this time. Other times I would, but we could negative paint back up through some of this to give some other shapes of the other feathers there. Maybe a bit of his coverts and coverings there. So you negative paint up through here. We could get just a bit of feathering look in there. Just like that. So it sets up some of his wing feathers. See, so, by modeling in and doing those brush strokes and then put it in that negative shadow, it looks like you've got feathers now. Let's put in that deeper shadow underneath the wing, right up to there. Pull that down there. That's got a good look to him. And then, you know me, it's like one of the things I like to do, and you can see him right here on this little guy here. And sometimes I do it with the 4. I'm gonna with the 4 round or so, or a little 2. This time I'm gonna try to do it in a stroke, light yellow and white, and just kind of pull up over the edge of his. Let's go a little bit lighter. Just use the corner here. Just pull in a bit of light, just a few strokes just to set that in there. Now I do like that stronger light and even some of that dark tracking down. So I think I'm going to try to do that here. Is pull a lighter stroke down that builds his chest just a bit more. Right there like that. Let's take a bit of the dark. Just short stroke, just tap, stroke around. That gives a bit of detail right in there like that. See, just break it up. Don't make it smooth. Just leave little marks. And those little marks, just add so much interest. Let's put a couple more strokes of light, going almost pure white now. Let's put one right up here by his cheek. Boom. Right up there, just boom. See, and leave that. See how I got a little bit of a ridge line there? I just leave it. And whatever happens, happens. That's what you leave it. That's what we talk about, the calligraphy of the brush. And that's hard. That is really hard to do. So if you want to go back and fix some of it with your little, 4 round and stuff, you can do that. But that's something I want you to work on. Next, I'm going to pull a few highlight strokes down and try not to work them too many times. Just leave those, just kind of push there, and that's the calligraphy of the brush mark, see? So what it does is it makes a bird quite a bit different looking than what we did with the other ones. Does that make sense? So it's a great technique. It really is a great technique to paint a bird like that. But it takes some confidence with your brush. Let's put just a few little light lines right down into there, just on his tail, and that works pretty well. And do I want to do any more dark or colors here? Maybe a bit more violet, and then we'll go paint 10-minute flowers here. A bit more blue, real dark, touch right into there. Yeah, see that dark, you repeat that dark, you see that dark a bit more. It does happen there. So it's kind of a cute little bird. His head could be a bit more round right up here. I could have sketched that a little bit flat. That'll be a bit better there. But you got to leave this. See those little brush marks there? If you go paint those out black, you won't get the head foreshortened like we're trying to do, okay? So don't get wild and crazy there. Let's put just a bit of light gray right up on the top of this beak into the head, just a bit more. That helps quite a bit. Okay, bye-bye number 4. We'll go back to our real fun, an 8 or a 10. What is this one? It's covered by paint. I think it's an 8. It feels like an 8 here. Let's go back. Let's rework some of these nice yellows and stuff from the Chickadee itself right in here. We'll do some yellows and whites and soft flowers here. Almost like I want, because the Chickadee is a real active little bird, and so I want to do some like little daisies and stuff like that. I like that. Let's take some of this violet colors. Those are real pretty colors here with the lights. Let's add some of those down through here. Just boom, 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 boom. And but one of the hardest things there is to paint, to just let yourself go like this and just paint. I mean, this is usually where about at least half of my students die right now, because they try to figure out what it is that I'm doing, and all I'm doing is breaking up the heaviness of the yellow. I don't want the yellow to be too heavy. I'm not building the flowers. What I'm doing, I'm not building flowers. What I'm doing is moving color. So I'm taking the bird color out down into the design and some of the other colors. Okay, and that's what I'm thinking of. Let's take a nice soft green, some burnt sienna, and some pine green here, maybe a bit of yellows with this. Here, let's push in some green here, maybe a bit of white so it's softer and lighter. Let's push in. Break up some of the yellows before. So see, what this does is it gives you this mottled area of color. Sometimes I put everything in really wet and just push it around with my fingers. I'll do it different all the time here. I don't like to paint just one way. I don't like to set myself up a habit of painting just one way. I like to paint all kinds of different ways. And if I find myself painting too much, this is what I do, is I paint a lot of different genres. I paint, and I always say this, if you want to get really good at painting roses, you need to go paint a seascape. You need to go paint a wildlife. Because if you've painted roses for as long as I did, and just practicing and practicing and practicing roses all the time doesn't really do it. You need to change your brush. If you're practicing and practicing and practicing, you're probably repeating the same habits. And so you need to break those habits. And how do you break those habits? You go paint something completely different. And so you learn how to curve a wave. That's going to change your brush. You learn how to paint the fur on a wolf like we did, on a dog. You learn how to, set those colors in a different type of stroke that breaks the habit that you have of that brush movement. Then you go back to that rose again, and you're now using your brush differently than you did before. And I try to tell that to my students all the time. Many times they don't believe me. They just say, well, no, I want to practice roses. I don't want to paint a wolf. I want to paint roses. And I was like, okay, go. you can go do that. And I'll see you again next year. And the next time, and the next time, next time, back for Rose class every time, because you're not doing anything to break the habits. And that's what I noticed about myself. Now I'm going to restate some of my yellows back up here. Let's get, we're going to put some yellow, nice yellows into some of these little daisies that we're going to do here. So there will be a daisy there. Do you see a little daisy there? No, you see color. Yeah. And let's put a bit of some more violets in there. That's kind of pretty. Just a little touch of that. Don't want to get too wild so I get a rainbow, but I just want to move some color through. And now we'll take some of these yellows, some of these violets together with some whites here. And we want to key off the bird. I don't want to make them as light as they are on the bird, but I want to get some nice thick paint here. And we want to start pushing in and out here. To push in and out to set some nice colors here. And let's make a few more yellow, just yellow strokes here. There, like that. And we'll decide here in a few minutes, do we calm some of it down? Do we, and you calm it down by giving them more edges and stuff. I like the fractured look of it, but sometimes that fractured look can compete against your little guy here, so we don't want to do that too much. Here. Push those in and out. And see, it just moves in and out. And so I make a more found edge towards the side that's the bird, lost edge out here towards the other side here. And let's turn this one up. So this one's going back. A little soft back here. Push in and out a bit. There, so I'll soften that one out there like that. And I'm going to make some, one of the things is, as I'm painting this, I keep seeing the little, these little guys, these black-capped chickadees, going in and out of my feeder. I've watched them for hours and feeded them. I used to, out there when I spent all my time out in Pennsylvania, I used to go through 50 pounds of bird seed a week out there. So, and that's where it was. And one time I had some surgery done, and it was going to be an 8-week recovery. I couldn't move, and so they had my lazy boy chair and stuff looking right out my picture window. At my family put up 5 different feeders that they had there, and all these birds, and all I did was sketch and paint birds and watch them all day long, and it was just, they're just amazing. But I started to paint flowers in accordance to their movements too. So, little daisies like this have a lot of just boom, 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 and that little chickadee has a lot of that kind of movement to her too. Take some of that color that we did there, and let's just pull down just a bit of it right down in there, and that creates a good harmony pulling through. Another one of the things I do sometimes. I don't always do it, but sometimes do it. There, like that. And, yeah. But painting casual flowers like this is one of the hardest things, and so we're going to do a few of them. We're going to do roses and stuff like that. But see, I kind of just move the shape, and what I do is use different pressures. If I use more paint, I pick up more paint when I'm to the side of the bird, and just kind of lightly brush the shape of the flower over onto the other side there. So I leave a more powerful shape that's closer to the little bird here. And less, but I'm using quite a bit of paint. And so I have quite a bit of paint, and when I do this paint like this, it's heavy paint towards these center ones and stuff, and sometimes build them several times because I like to build it and push back and forth and maybe hit with some more pure white paint there like that, several times. And then softer as I come out to the other side, and then real whispery as I come back out over here. Hard to copy. It's almost impossible to copy it. You just, paint and let yourself go. Like I said before in the other ones, the easiest thing to do is just watch me paint them. Listen to what I'm saying about putting an edge next to the bird, softly going out the other side, using a lot of paint on the petals that are next to the bird. Maybe restate them a couple times with some more white, just right onto those edges there. So you really get a nice light tracking up through there. And let that happen, and then turn off the video and go paint your flowers, and let your flowers be what you wanted to see them to be. But you can slowly, now I have that down in there, I can come in and shape up using that petal edging kind of edge, any kind of edges, just a bit, like right there, like that, so it really kind of forms right in there towards the bird. If that's what I want to do, I may want to restate that main light right there on her just a bit. And let's take a bit of let's give a bit more contrast to it. Let's go a little red violet with that burnt sienna here, and touch a bit more dark right in there this time. There. And why can I do it this time? Because she is black. That's black and white. That's the biggest amount of contrast. So I can have more contrast. See, I didn't add this before in the other ones. In these that we did, real soft ones here, I didn't get that real dark contrast in there, okay? And don't worry, we'll go back to roses and all kinds of other flowers. We're going to, do hummingbirds. And I've painted hummingbirds before, putting them with little fuchsias and stuff, and I really like that. We might do something like that. So we're going to do a lot of other flowers, but I like these types of flowers with the little chickadee just because they got a lot of powerful movement in them and stuff. So there's a lot of contrast there. I'm going to go grab some yellow oxide, tap that around, right around there to the top side, and leave that shadow here. Boom, just tap that around with the brush. Let what happens happen. Don't play around too long. You'll make all of them the same. Maybe sometimes hit them with your corner of your finger there or something to soften them a bit. But I always put the yellow side closer to the bird itself because that's the contrast side. Put a bit of that. Let's go with some Hansa. Nice little corner, nice little texture of the Hansa. Just a bit of it around. That just helps a lot. Get some more contrast there. Tap that around. Boom. Tap that around here. Boom. There, like that. Maybe just a bit of it right down there, just to say you did it, because you don't need that much. You can come in here. I might take some of this nice softer color and just be very suggestive of maybe some other kind of flower or something right back there. It doesn't need to have too much stuff going on there. And, that kind of stops out here kind of quick, so maybe just an idea of something here. Soften it out. This is what I really like. And, and let's take some burnt sienna and pine green. Don't mix it up real well. Model it up a bit, and let's add some movement through the daisy stems here. And just grab that and maybe like a little calyx there of that one. Very suggestive. That looks a little weak, a little thin, so I might or cross it with another one or some other kind of movement there. And you can push this amount of contrast in there because, again, you have a black and white bird. So you can increase your contrast just a bit into the painting itself because your bird has so much contrast here. So we can increase a bit more. I like small And this will come with time. Those of you that are you know, because I know I have a couple of you that are following and doing this that have not been painting long at all. But this kind of idea of just doing this, the brush marks, I always call these the petit marks because I learned how to do this from studying Eugene Petit's paintings. But this will come. It'll come with time, and you know, you gotta fill up your library of ideas and techniques and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll take some time, but you'll get it here. So let's see. Do I need anything more down through here? Do I want to just softly suggest some greens, filling up down here? Maybe a yellow or something like that. Just some nice movement. Just look for some movement, soft. Here, colors, filling that all up. I don't like stuff to end at exactly the same, so we'll just add a few little things here, movements, colors and stuff. That's all it needs. You know, you can fill up also right through here by just adding some, you know, unopened up, you know, just some flowers that aren't opened up. Just some colors. A little calyx or a little mark there, so they're not opened. So not every flower needs to be in full open here. So you can, and that adds interest too, but just by filling in some smaller stuff. Maybe a bit of an idea of a leaf there. You can make more detailed leaves. I didn't make them very detailed at all this time. You could add a little bit more right up in here. Or, you know, you can make yourself a brighter yellow green. I'll just show you here. Brighter yellow green, because we can afford more contrast in on this painting because we have ultimately, but you can make a few strokes of some brighter yellow green here. Right, just tap that into that area there, see? And because again, we could have some of this out here because we have such high contrast bird here. She is queen and she knows it. And you can tap a bit of the burnt sienna and green, kind of like a little shadow there, just right underneath that. Push those there. Very casual. Yes, and I know that will damage a few of my students when I paint this fast and casual. They just, and especially the ones that have been painting with me for so long, they remember me as a very slow, methodical, mechanical, perfect, precise painter. Now I go out and just put this stuff out, and that's hard to do, but I love it. I mean, I love it. You can do a little negative painting here. Look how that pops that petal of that flower out just a bit more. A little negative painting means we're concentrating the shape on the background here. Just drop that right there by her. And I think what I want to do, so now looking at this, I'm going to go back, revisit my 4, revisit my yellow oxide and my light, and I'm going to build her up just a bit more right in there because this is the forward part of her. So lots of thick paint. So you see me grabbing lots of thick paint here. And I want to just pull through here because I really want this area to really shine on her, to really pull through. And so I'm going to give a bit of the roundness here to the body this way and let that feathering come out. Put that light in. And sometimes, you know, like there you might stroke too much light, so I just come back with the dark and try not to work too long with one color. But see how this is building on her? Building these light colors there. You can see that. I like that. Pull that down right there by her leg. So if you get something to get that light on too much, or it is, go back, grab the dark and stroke back through there again. And you use these powerful strokes like this. You use powerful brush strokes. Let's go grab yellow, just a bit of the burnt sienna. So it's a bit darker, maybe a touch of green that will tone it a bit. There on this end. There. Push that shadow up under her wing there just a bit. Now see, I'm getting some nice brush calligraphy in there. Let's build that just a touch more. Boom. Push that in. Lots of paint. This is where I find that I really like it, is when I start getting a lot of that nice thicker paint in there. See how she's getting more life? She build that. And let me tell you, that took me the longest time. Of all the painting of the birds and stuff, this is the technique that took me the longest time, because you really have to be brave. You really got to get your colors out and be brave to be able to do that with lots of paint. And so, and when you use lots of paint, the feeling of control isn't there anymore. So, you know, some people have trouble with it, like myself. For a long time I had trouble with it. Now I'll just give that little bit of fluffy end down there on her tail, and I'm liking the way that's going. Now see, that'll tone down a bit too as it dries. So there we go, just that. Boy, that's a lot of paint, see? It's a lot of paint, but I can push it to soften it. And I don't want to soften it that much because I like this brush calligraphy here. But that's a lot of paint now going through, building there onto her body. Let's just do one more last little stroke here, right there on that leg. There, like that. Just something, just let it happen there. And maybe just a touch back here by that other one. Right back there. And a bit of the light. Just pull through. Bit of that yellow oxide here. Make sure I do have that good shadow. There, that looks good. It got a nice modeling. But you can see, and you know, when you're painting a bird like that, you know, try a few things. That's the thing. It's just color. It's just a little bit of paint on the board. Like I always say, try a few different strokes. Get used to them. Try them. And see what the effect is. I'm going to take just a bit of this shadowy and pull down just around her body. Just a bit, because the light is actually coming from the back side. So this would be a bit more of a shadow right here. Right there, and we'll let that just soften out, give a nice lost edge right down there. And that'll work. But this, you know, how much you do, how much you go through, you know, that is all up to you. I like these kinds of strokes. Boom. Just let that kind of follow. There. I think that's good. Maybe one more. Maybe one more right down through there like that. That's good. Nice big body strokes there. Painterly, very painterly. She's really kind of fun that way. I could use a touch of the yellow. Now that I got that yellow so heavy, just a bit of mark so you can see a bit of it up here at the top of her mantle. Right here, just a little tiny stroke here and there. And I think that's kind of enough for her, okay? So we got some nice wild flowers there again, some nice wild daisies there. You know, we'll return to some other flowers, some softer roses, bigger blossoms. We're gonna, you know, there's one that I want to do. I was looking for the next one at this blue bunting, and I was thinking the blue bunting with some lilacs and stuff would be really neat. So that'll probably be our next one that I'll do in the next day or two here. We'll do a blue bunting with some nice colored lilacs. Won't that be kind of fun to do? Get all those different colors of tones of blues and stuff like that. Okay. Thanks very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this one. Paint it away. And just to let some of you guys know, we love to share at our studio. If you're watching a lesson here, a complete painting lesson like here on YouTube, you are allowed to paint. We allow you to paint it and sell your designs and stuff. You can't make prints out of it because the original concept of the idea is ours. But you can paint and sell your designs as much as you want. Or if you buy our books and DVDs, you can paint anything out of there and sell any of those paintings out there that you want, okay? There's a lot of copyright laws out there, and basically you shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff unless it's 100% yours. But we allow all of our students to make some money, because that's, you support us, we support you, and that's how it goes, and that's how it works. And selling series of birds like this, those of you that go to little shows, weekend shows, and sell your paintings, putting up a series of birds, put them up in, you know, similar frames so people can think about them in the, you know, the same in their house, you know, those just sell so well. Those sell very well, you know. So, you know, think about something like that. So, thank you very much, and don't forget to hit like, and don't forget to comment, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one, okay? All right.